Now, as Bev mentioned, the federal government's Royal Commission into Child Sexual Abuse does get underway in Melbourne today. Let's take a closer look at just what we can expect. New South Wales Supreme Court Judge Peter McClellan has been appointed to lead the Royal Commission. Now, he'll be supported by 5 other commissioners, including the former Queensland Police Commissioner Bob Atkinson and former Senator Andrew Murray. They've also been asked to provide an interim report of progress by mid-next year. Now, its main focus will be to investigate systemic failures within church and state-run institutions in preventing and dealing with child abuse.
The terms of reference specifically ask the commissions to consider what action governments and institutions should take to provide redress to victims of past and future sexual abuse. The Royal Commission team will establish a special investigations unit to work with victims of abuse and refer matters to police for prosecution where appropriate.
A big job ahead for that Royal Commission. There'll be full coverage from 9:30 Eastern Daylight Time this morning of the first hearing. There won't be actual evidence heard, no witnesses, but certainly statements from both the Royal Commissioner Peter McClellan and the lead counsel.
Now, joining us is the Victorian state politician Anne Barker, who has been very instrumental in pushing for this commission into abuse. And thank you very much for your time this morning.
Oh, thank you. Good morning.
A significant day for you. How are you feeling about the fact that this is finally going to get underway?
It's a very, very important day, and but most importantly, it's a great day and a significant day for victims and survivors of clergy sexual abuse. You know, they will learn today how the public and private hearings are going to be conducted. I notice also that that it said on the website that Justice McClellan will report on the work of the Commission, and they have already undertaken some, fairly important meetings. So it's a great day.
You've looked at the terms of reference. Are you confident it will be wide-ranging enough to get to the heart of the issue? Of course, it doesn't just look at churches, it looks at other state organisations as well.
And definitely, and it has to look at other organisations, but the important, and I think I've mentioned this before, the very important part of this Royal Commission is that it can also look at departments, the police, the other areas that need to be looked at, and that's one of the things that the Victorian State Parliamentary Inquiry doesn't do.
Are you concerned that the scope is so large that perhaps some of it may get lost, and particularly hearing from the individuals themselves, because a lot of this is about giving them finally a voice?
Yes, that's correct. There is already a body of evidence that can go to the National Royal Commission. The Victorian Parliamentary Inquiry has done some very, very good work, and I think that evidence will go up to them and that will assist them. I think there's always a concern that, some may not get a chance to tell their story, but this is a real opportunity for it to do so. They can extend their time. I hope they don't. There have been comparisons to Ireland, and I don't think, while it's important to look at the history of Ireland and the inquiries over there, I don't think you can truly compare it to the inquiry into institutions in Ireland, which did take 9 years, because they had a lot of legal barriers to overcome, whereas here and in other parts of the world now, they can't stop it. They can't say, we're not going to hand over documents, we're not going to appear. They have the power to do it, and I think that they will do it. I feel very confident that, this will be a very good thing.
Okay, so even within that, what many people see still as a constricted time frame, that interim report due as early as the middle of next year, considering the hundreds of witnesses to come up, responses from the various churches and state organisations, you still believe that's enough time to wade through these murky issues?
Yeah. But I also think it's important that the interim report is done. It's the same as the Victorian Parliamentary Inquiry. One of the things that I think that we have to be really careful about, and I think that we've seen this through the Victorian State Parliamentary Inquiry, many of those victims and survivors have now told their stories, and we and the community at large can see how those lives have been destroyed. We can't keep waiting. I'm not talking about compensation and redress, but we can't keep waiting for action to be taken to give them back some life, to look at the ways in which we can deal with it. Many of them are already accessing, unemployment benefits, housing, trying to access those services. There's ways in which that can be done now, and as we move through this National Royal Commission, we don't have to wait to the end of the Royal Commission to provide some support, care and ongoing support and care for these many people that will come forward and have come forward.
And then you talk about redress and compensation. You've also been talking to the Ballarat group that are very significant in this. How important is it to have a coordinated approach? And I'm presuming that the victims are at varying degrees of distress and need for this kind of support.
That's right, and I think that they've been really very positive and very constructive, the guys in Ballarat, and I will continue my discussions with them. The need for what we call a holistic service, I think, is really important, and I think is something that I'm working on, and I think you need to take that a little bit away from compensation and redress, because this is something that's ongoing, something, as I said, that many things that they are already accessing, but we need to put them together in a holistic way, and I don't think that that's difficult. And perhaps we can run the pilot project in Ballarat, and that can also form part of some of the suggestions and recommendations that can go to a National Royal Commission that says, how do we deal with those that have been affected? Yes, we need to deal with the future, and yes, we need to get them justice, but we also need to work with them, those that are affected now, have been affected, and we need to work through how we can, support them into the future.
The
Give
Catholic
them back
Church,
alive.
yeah, the Catholic Church has set up this Truth and Healing Commission. They announced the commissioners yesterday. Does that go far enough, in your view?
No. I've always indicated that, while it's important for any organisation to have protocols and procedures, state law and national law overrides any of that. I don't get involved in their protocols and procedures, because I think that it's up to the states, governments, the community to deal with these issues, not the church.
And has it become confusing for victims to know we've now got a New South Wales inquiry, a Victorian inquiry, the Royal Commission and a separate inquiry?
Yeah. I think that the National Royal Commission was needed. I called for a state one, but I was very happy to see the national one called. Yeah, but it's a very important day.
Thank you, Anne, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you again.